My name is Kyle Davis. I am marketing communications for Vari-Lite and Strand. I'm part of that. I am here with Paul Krizan, who is joining us. Paul, can you say hi?
Yep. Hi, everybody.
Paul is like I said, the senior product manager for Strand Control and Distribution Products, and he is going to join us here to talk a little bit about the trends and the technology of that in the control and distribution world. Paul, to start, for those that don't know you and or may not have known you, give us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us your background a little bit and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. My background really is in engineering. I spent the early part of my career as an engineer and joined Vari-Lite and Strand back in August of last year. I spent probably 12 years before that at Harman Professional doing product management work on AMX's video and control products. So that's given me a good background in product management and also specifically in the install space and really understanding the needs of dealers and consultants and anyone who's doing fixed installation kind of work. So there's a lot of similarities to what we do on the Strand system side of things, but there are some subtle differences with the lighting industry, of course.
Right. Thank you so much for that background. Since you are relatively new to the entertainment lighting industry, like you said, a lot of similarities and overlaps there, but new in particular to entertainment lighting. What are some of your thoughts and perceptions of the industry? Because you are kind of a fresh face and you have a fresh perspective, I think, to entertainment lighting. So what are your perceptions as you've sort of joined entertainment lighting?
Yeah, so it's really neat because it's a very strong kind of niche industry, right? You have people who have been working in it for in many cases their whole careers. It is an industry that is full of really, really passionate people who are passionate about the products, people who are passionate about what you can do with lighting, people who are passionate about theater and live events. And it's a strong community, and you really get that sense when you talk to people. The other interesting thing for me, and this really surprised me in a way about the entertainment lighting industry, is really how truly kind and helpful everyone is in the industry. Probably more than any other business or industry I've been involved in. I've just been overwhelmed by how helpful and willing to share their time, their knowledge that everyone I've encountered in the lighting industry has been.
Well, that's really cool of you to say, and I'll say that I've noticed the same thing. I'm also relatively new to the lighting world, and so beyond the people and that sort of thing that you mentioned, which I tend to agree with. What technologically, what trends are you seeing? What changes are you seeing in the market from maybe the way things are, or the way they have been, to where they're tending to move, in your opinion?
Yeah. So, and I think for me, the strongest trend that I've noticed when it comes to the system side of things, and this is something that started several years ago, so it's not a trend that's new, say in the last year, but it's really, I think, starting to gain momentum, is the shift towards additional support for networking, specifically on Ethernet networks of all of the control pieces of this. And historically, your lighting control, really almost regardless of vendor, was going to be based on RS-485, DMX, and there's some real benefits to that as a technology, and I don't see that necessarily going away in any real near sense, because in terms of the wiring distances, the ability to daisy chain, those kind of things can be very beneficial when it comes to an installation. However, mixing it in with networks then means that you are able to, you know, do some new things, right? So you're able to do additional distribution using Ethernet networking. You can start to enable additional functionality because you have increased bandwidth. You have more, the ability to do more broad-based distribution via an Ethernet network. And so, you've seen this really starting to go strong with things like network nodes for DMX distribution. But even on the architectural control side of things, and the show control side of things, you're really seeing more and more of this trend of merging in your Ethernet networks along with your traditional, we'll say RS-485 or dedicated proprietary, control networks.
Absolutely. So, when you're talking about, these networks and connecting, more devices to sort of the larger network, the thing that comes to my mind then as we're talking about this is specifically the VisionNet Gateway, which is something that I know that we have come out with on the Strand side, and I wonder if you could kind of explain a little bit about what that is, and because I think that it's not always entirely clear what the gateway is really for, and so assuming that's related, because that's my understanding that that's related to this whole concept. Can you explain a little bit about what the gateway is and kind of how it ties into all of that?
Yeah, for sure. And in fact, if you look at our VisionNet Gateway, VisionNet is our control bus that's been historically RS-485 based, and the VisionNet Gateway is a product that we released for VisionNet that actually has no RS-485 connections on it at all. It's really based around this idea that we're going to see more and more moving to the network. And the gateway, we think about that as something of a platform that allows us to leverage control across the network. And because we're on the network, we can then think about enabling more features around it. So when we initially shipped it, the first feature on the product, the first thing that we made available was to just use it as an astronomical time clock for time-based events to any of our other VisionNet-based products that also already had a network connection. So things like our touch screens, things like our power distribution products that had network connectivity, were able to make use of that. But at the end of the day, I personally really think of it as a platform upon which we can grow additional architectural control types of features.
So you're talking about it being a platform and it growing as you go along. What are some ways that you are looking to expand? Can you hit on some of those ways that you either have expanded it already or are looking to expand it as you go on?
Yeah. So I mentioned the first release was all about the time clock functionality. At the end of last year, we added in our what we call our VisionNet OnTheGo interface, and we really, we looked at the platform, we looked at the network connectivity, and we said, okay, many of our customers and really all of us are carrying network connected devices with us all the time, right? Whether it's our phones, tablets, laptops. And we get lots and lots of requests for, I want to be able to control my lights from the device that I'm carrying with me. And I know it has network connectivity, so is there some way I can work that out? So we took that gateway platform, and the next feature that we added was the ability for you to design a VisionNet touchscreen interface, just as you would for publishing to our standard touchscreen, and then, but instead of publishing it to a touchscreen, publish it to the gateway, and the gateway would then render that touchscreen out as a web page. So now it's a web page published on a network, and at that point, then any device that's on the lighting network, any device with a web browser, you don't even need to have a dedicated app installed, can browse to the gateway, put in a passcode, and then have control over the lighting system. And this has been really well received because now it means you can attach a wireless network to your lighting network, and then anywhere throughout your facility as you're moving around, you can control your lights, and you're benefiting from that network-based distribution that we're talking about.
Right, which is really that's actually a really cool sort of way to think about it, rather than sort of being tied into apps. Because I know the last thing I really want on my phone is one more app. I guess my one question on that would be, what can you do with the web version of the app? Is it fairly comparable to what you can do on a touch screen? Is there disparity there? How does that work compared to what you can do on a touch screen?
Yeah, so our objective here was to have it be as feature rich as our touchscreen is. Now we're not quite there yet, and there is a published list of a few touchscreen features that we don't have in there today. Probably the one that we get most commonly asked for is our fixture attribute control panel. So within the touchscreen today, you can put faders on to access any and control any individual fixture preset, but it's a bit cumbersome that way. So in the touchscreen, there is a attribute control panel that gives you a color picker and gives you the ability to control a pan and tilt and certain other things like that. And we are working to bring that capability into the gateway, with the ultimate objective being that there's really not a difference. It's if you can do it with a touch screen, you can do it with a gateway, and it may take us a few releases to get there, but we're working towards that eventual capability.
Wow, that's really cool, and I look forward to seeing how that particular capability sort of grows, because I think I personally think that's pretty cool. Definitely forward looking. Speaking of to that sort of to forward looking ideas. At LDI, for example, on the gateway, we had something else new, because I had heard about the web browser thing, but I also noticed that we came up with a new module that is a VisionNet module. So can you explain what that is? Because I think that's a little confusing. So maybe you can explain what is the VisionNet module and what does that do?
So the one thing I didn't mention on the gateway, I've been talking a lot about the gateway as a platform and all the new software features and capabilities that we're adding into the gateway, but it's also extensible from a hardware standpoint. You can actually connect up additional hardware modules to the gateway. And we talk about bridging between the Ethernet network and the traditional RS-485 control platform that we have, but the gateway itself can't make that bridge today. If you have to put in one of our other products to do that. So the VisionNet interface module is a module that connects directly into the gateway, that basically gives you a hardline VisionNet connection, and it gives you now that bridge between the Ethernet network and the VisionNet sort of RS-485 system. So this is great because you can take that same RS-485 then, and for example, hang VisionNet button stations off of it, which are all RS-485 based. But then you can, on the Ethernet side, you can be using the OnTheGo interface. You can connect all of the touch screens up on the Ethernet side, and you can use this VisionNet to Ethernet capability that you have on the gateway as something of a bridge between the two systems.
So what you're talking about is basically saying that you can use the gateway and the VisionNet module, so then you can connect your keypads straight into your VisionNet system, and because historically you would have to have like a keypad and a touch panel or some other VisionNet device in relatively near proximity to the module, but now you don't. That's what you're saying, right? So that's that module. But what about other modules? Because I mean, it's modular. Whole idea of modular is you can add things on. So is there other things that are going to do similar kinds of connectivity things coming down the line, or am I here understanding that wrong?
No, you're absolutely right, and the whole concept behind the hardware modules is how we bridge between the network side, the Ethernet side, and other communication protocols and things like that. So I'm not going to say too much today, but other than to say that we have another, the next module is in development, and if you look later this year, you will see that, and you'll start to see how this gateway can become a bridge between different sort of communication bus technologies, if you will.
Ah, all right. Well, I couldn't get any more details out of you, but I got a little bit anyway. All right. So that's cool. So we talked a lot about connectivity to other networks, obviously with the gateway, and some of your other things you've been talking about so far. Is that why? Is that why we did the C21 processor? Because I know that was another new thing, and that it's been mentioned in the context of network. And so, was that the idea behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you know if you don't know our C21 product, it's a modular dimming platform, and it's one that we've actually had around for quite some time. And it's one of these products that you put in. It's a big piece of infrastructure, and it just tends to work day in and day out, year after year. And to really reinforce this trend towards networking, the original processor in the C21 and the CD80, even before that, it didn't have all the support for all of the network protocols. And so we, at the beginning of last year, we introduced the C21 ACE processor as a new processor that gives you the capabilities to bring in and use and leverage the network-based control protocols. And not to overuse the term platform, but it's also a processor platform that is something that we can add additional software features and capabilities to now that we're connected on the network, and really to drive home the transition the market is making towards networking. If you put in a C21 dimming platform, it'll last you years and years and continue to function very well. And so we offered this as an upgrade, and we had some guesses on how many upgrade systems we would sell, and have been absolutely blown away by the reception. And that just goes to show how many people want to make that move. The dimming product works great for them. It continues to work great, but they need new ways to control it, new ways to talk to it as they upgrade their consoles, as they upgrade other parts of the infrastructure. And so this gave them an avenue, and it just kind of reinforced that idea about things moving to the network.
Excellent. Well, that makes a lot of sense. But of course, we're talking about power now, and the C21. Since this is a trends discussion, are you seeing any trends around power distribution? Because to your point, power is kind of been around for a long time. Power kind of is power to a certain extent, but is there trends in that world, or is it just kind of the same, or what's your opinion there?
Yeah, well, I think the most obvious trend, and this will probably not come as a surprise to anyone, is the move towards using relays for power distribution, right? As our fixtures move more and more, almost completely at this point, to LED-based fixtures, the need for dimming becomes a lesser need, and we have for our dimming platforms relay module options. So we see lots of customers taking those dimming platforms and upgrading them, the modules in them, when and as needed, to relay-based products. And then we also have a dedicated relay panel called Contact. And we've had this for several years, but we're definitely seeing an uptick in the numbers of relay panels that we sell, the numbers of them that are getting specified into projects, and also even within projects, sort of an increase in the circuit density. So as you go into an installation and it's all going to be LED based lighting, we're seeing specifications that have in many cases multiple 48 circuit panels, as they're just doing all the power distribution with relays. So I would say, we still see a lot of dimming move out in the market, but the increase in relays, relay based distribution is where it's at, because of everything moving to LED.
Well, you know, uh, that's an interesting point then, because I know that obviously we have 48 relay panels, but then we also um, for the for certain types of our relay panels we only have 42. Forgive my lack of understanding there, but you know how do you handle that when you have 48 of some type but 42 of the other? What is there a solution there?
Yeah, so to provide some feedback on that, um, our main lug contact panel maxes out at 42 circuits today. And so what that means is when we have an installation that requires 48 circuits, we end up having to add additional panels. And as customers are looking towards, wanting to have increased density of circuits that they're controlling, we really need to, up that number of circuits that are in the panel. So, we are looking at options to upgrade the number of circuits in the panel, and I think that's something that you'll see coming from us in the very near future, and that's just driven by that strong trend in the market towards increased circuit count.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. So now we're talking about, obviously, more this move to relays, and from my understanding, a lot of that is driven by, obviously we have LED, but then we also have a lot of DMX controlled fixtures that have more complex control, more moving heads at affordable prices, or even fixed position fixtures that have motorized zoom. Vari-Lite sells fixtures like that. Strand sells fixtures like that, and so and that's driving a lot of this power control. Correct? Isn't that's the idea, or part of that
Mm-hmm.
anyway? So how does, because those fixtures obviously are going to be more complex from a control perspective. So how does that impact show control, especially when, I mean, it's one thing if you're talking about a huge theater or a large space, but if you're going to have more affordable, especially because you have more affordable moving heads, that are now obviously relay control from power perspective, but from just a show control perspective, how do you control all these fixtures now that you have more of them in maybe in spaces that maybe wouldn't normally have them?
Yeah, so our Neo platform is a console that we've had around for several years now, and it's been designed really for those, exactly what you described, those large theatrical applications. And it's a console that's designed to really be able to allow a lighting designer to very quickly and easily program and control these complicated light fixtures that have many features, many attributes, and it's something where we really refine the console to allow for ease of programming and rapid programming, even as these fixtures have more and more features added into them. But just as you mentioned, as you get some of those features and those capabilities going in a way into the less expensive fixtures and the fixtures that are targeting smaller applications, you need to have that kind of control or that level of sophisticated control, but even in smaller applications. And so, for example, when you look at a middle school or a house of worship that's not a mega church or a small community theater, and they're all of a sudden able to consider buying a moving headlight that has 6 colors, 6 LED colors, and gobo wheels, and zoom, and all those capabilities. Historically, into those applications, we would have sold a much simpler console, a console that was really limited to some basic faders and memory and things like that. But now they need sort of that feature-rich capability that Neo gives you. But for their application, we would say that Neo is a bit much. It's maybe physically large for their application. It might be outside of their budget. It probably can certainly control more light fixtures than they would have in their installation. And so we got to thinking about it and said, well, the feature set for Neo is right for these types of applications, but maybe the size, the budget, the number of fixtures that you can control is more than they need. And so at LDI, we previewed the Neo Compact 10, which is a Neo console. The software running in it is the same as Neo. It has all of that ability to control even the most sophisticated fixtures, but in a package that's smaller, in a package that has a built-in screen, so that you don't need one or more external monitors to do your control, with a smaller number of faders. And yes, at the end of the day, it can control. It has a 10 universe limit, but again, for those smaller applications, that's perfect. That's as much as they really need. And so we're pretty excited, because the market sees a need to be able to control these fixtures in these smaller venues. You just don't need a huge console in order to go do it.
All right. So essentially, what you're saying basically is then that the Neo Compact, it's basically it's the full power of Neo. Is that right? Basically, from a functionality perspective, but it's sort of in a small less. You said Neo is a bit much. This is less package from that perspective, so to speak. So what does what is the full power of Neo? What does Neo do that sort of makes it different? Because why would what's the appeal of that, other than the fact that it does 10 universes? What's the appeal of Neo versus something that's maybe less? So why is that going to be more advantageous to these schools and other things that might be looking at the Neo Compact versus something else?
Yeah, so the Neo console is really, first and foremost, is designed with theatrical applications in mind, right? So building up cue lists and things like that, and it's a console that we have iterated on over a period of years now, really taking that direct feedback from lighting designers, from people working in those theatrical environments, about how we can make it easier for them to program a show, to program a queue list, to do what they need to do quickly, and then go about their business. And so there's a tremendous amount of power in there, right? This is a console that can program shows in big theaters, and so that's the why of Neo. And what we focused on with the Neo Compact is saying, well, we don't want to constrain that functionality, and in fact, we don't want to limit a power user from having that same rapid programming capability. It's why, if you look at it, it's got the built-in keypad. I mean, it's got the ability to do command line programming. If that's something that you learn and you understand, that can be a power user feature for you. But what we focused on the Compact as well is saying, okay, for that middle school theater teacher or that house of worship user who's approaching it for the first time, how can we leave that power there, but then also provide a simple way, a very approachable way for them to get up and running with the console? So I'll just give you an example. On Neo, the patching capability is very powerful, and if you know how to do the patching, it's even something that you can do quite quickly. But you still need to kind of understand how patching works on Neo. So on all of that is there on Neo Compact, But what we've also added in is a patching assistant. So the first time you go to patch in fixtures on Neo Compact, you'll be asked, do you want to run the patching assistant, which will basically walk you through patching in your light fixtures. So the power is there, all the capability that was there before is there, but there's something to guide you through it. And we're looking through all the functionality, all the screens, trying to ask ourselves, for that smaller venue user, can we make it a simpler experience for you? But then as you grow with the console, as you become more familiar, can you tap into those power features? Can you use the things that we've built in for even the big theater users to make yourself more efficient, or to do more with the console? And what's really cool about it is, as we're adding these user experience improvements in, it's the same code base. So those same features will then roll into the full size Neo, and even a person who's new to Neo will get to benefit from those as well.
Well, that's awesome. Well, that's really cool to hear how you sort of brought it down to size, so to speak. So, in the course of this, obviously, we've talked about architectural control and the VisionNet gateway and some of that. And then, of course, we talked about power and power distribution, and show control as well. But overall, we haven't really talked about luminaires much, uh, which obviously you're the control side, but a lot of times we kind of exist in this sort of this side and that side, never betwixt shall meet, kind of thing. How do we bring those worlds together? Because it always seems like an odd thing to me that these are two sort of separate things. So how do you bring those together?
Yeah, so a key thing here is that even today, our systems products and our luminaires, they interoperate, right? And a lot of this is due to the standardization that exists around things like DMX. One of the things that we're looking at, and there's nothing specific I can share today, but one of the things that we're looking at going forward, and one of the things that attracted me to Vari-Lite and Strand, is how we offer both the system side, right? So the show control, the architectural control, power distribution, and data distribution, and we make the luminaires. And to be clear, it's something where these products will continue to interoperate with other devices down the road. I think that's a key thing. But as we look at how we improve the experience for the users of our products, for the installers of our products, and we think through the installation process and the maintenance process, we think through how people monitor and manage their systems, we think there's an opportunity to do an additional level of integration, if you will, between the system side and the luminaire side. And I think that's an exciting thing when you have a company that's able to do to really handle kind of the whole package, the whole solution, if you will, from the system to the light fixture itself. So nothing specific I can share today, but that is something that I think you'll see us starting to leverage more and more down the road.
All right. Well, I thought I might get a gotcha there. I like trying to wheedle something out of the product managers. That's always a personal hobby of mine. But anyway, thank you for that. Thank you so much for your time and for going over this. Before we go, I'd love to sort of know if you have any other final thoughts or final words overall of the industry before we go.
Yeah, sure. Well, hey, Kyle, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. Thanks to everybody who tuned in today. And really, I'm excited to be part of the industry now, part of Vari-Lite and Strand, and I'm looking forward to the time when we can get back out again and start talking to people, and hopefully get a chance to spend more time interacting with all of you, and getting your feedback and helping that to shape our roadmap and our plans and what we want to do going forward.
Yeah. So and thank you too, Paul. I appreciate your time and like Paul said, the time of everybody that joined in today. Thank you for hanging with us, and if you hadn't looked through, we obviously we have you found this course, but we have a bunch of other things, both both on the system control side, as well as we have there's an interview with Martin Palmer next week on the Luminaire and production side of things as well. So if that is part of your sort of wheelhouse and that piques your interest, please check that out, and please check our other trainings out that we have going on, and we'll continue to add those as we go forward. Of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, look us up on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're all there for Vari-Lite and for Strand. And so please check us out if you haven't. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say that. But I again appreciate your time, and appreciate your time, Paul, as well. And thank you.